Man, these work sessions are a game changer around here. Yeah. Yes, indeed.
I just think what's going on is just the one person, and I think it's a little bit short-sighted.
Oh, okay, good. So you're good with that? Everything's covered. Okay.
Yeah, tell me, Vicky, she was late getting in here tonight.
Got us 1 minute and late.
Tell me, Vicky, she was late getting in here tonight.
It is. That's okay. We'll probably won't be here long enough to speak up. You might go.
They tag.
To be precise. Rolling to 30 here in just a second. We'll see. There we are. All right, good evening. We'd like to call this meeting to order. We'll stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. We'll have prayer by Pastor Thomas Roberts of the Josie Creek Missionary Baptist Church, and then we'll have a moment of silence.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Every head bowed, every eye closed. Father in heaven, we thank you again for allowing us to come before you as your people. We do pray and ask, Lord, wisdom and knowledge for these that you have set in leadership for our city. We pray your blessings upon them and guide them in wisdom and knowledge. Lord, that they will make decisions that's for the betterment of your people within this city and county. We pray, dear Heavenly Father, for our mayor and the alderman and alderwoman. We ask, Lord, your blessings upon each department and these your people that have come to present themselves before this council. We ask that you give us unity within this city, that our city will be a beacon in this state and nation. We ask you to, Lord, have mercy upon us as we set ourselves to do your will. Lord, thank you for hearing our prayer. We ask these things in Jesus' name. Amen.
Thank you. Thank you, Pastor. Welcome, everyone. As Facebook is running, I assume, so we're in good shape. We have before you the agenda, and with the indulgence of the board, I would like to add a resolution that I have placed at everyone's seat. It is a resolution recognizing and commending the Honorable Representative Tyrone Ellis for his service to the citizens of the city of Starkville, Mississippi, and I would like to add that to the agenda and hopefully to the consent agenda if the board is so inclined.
So moved.
Thank you. Motion, do I have a second?
Second.
Second from Ms. Sistrunk. Any discussion? All in favor? Thank you very much. We also have the full agenda in front of you. Do we have any adjustments or amendments to the consent agenda or the agenda? Do we have any discussion? Alderman Walker?
I don't have any changes to the consent agenda, but I would like to ask a question. I saw Mr. Tate, his item is on the consent agenda, and since he just walked in, I just wanted to ask a question about the project. Is there any update on the project on University Drive in terms of what may or may not be happening there? No update? Okay, thank you.
And that reflects that Mr. Tabor indicated no update, so thank you. Okay, anyone have any changes to the consent agenda? Okay.
Mayor,
Mr. Latimer.
under Finance and Administration,
Okay.
the Bancorp South lease agreement, the actual agreement hasn't been presented, it's just the proposal which shows the lowest quote. So just from a clarification standpoint, I would advise striking the word agreement in that agenda item, because we are just considering the proposal tonight.
Okay, so consideration of a proposal with Bancorp South?
Of a lease proposal.
Of a
with
lease
Bancorp
proposal.
South.
So the recommendation is to change that language to reflect a lease proposal with Bancorp South Equipment Finance Corporation in the stated amount on the consent agenda. Is anyone, Ms. Alderman Sistrunk?
If our city clerk, chief financial officer could clarify, are these from state rebate funds or from another funding source?
It's fire code rebate. fire
The
code.
fire code, which is for the fire marshals
Okay.
to enforce the fire code.
Okay,
To trouble to use fire.
okay, perfect.
Anything? Anyone else? Do I have a motion to accept the consent agenda as amended?
So moved.
I have a motion from Alderman Little. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Alderman Miller. Any discussion? All right. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Consent agenda is approved, and approval of the agenda, the official agenda itself with the consent agenda attached. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Thank you, Alderman Little. Second?
Second.
Alderman Miller, thank you. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. All right, we have next the announcements and comments, and the only announcement I'm going to make is to force the police chief to come up here and tell us about his policeman's ball coming up here. So, and I say force, I use that term lightly, you understand? You carry the gun, not me.
Yes, ma'am. Greetings, Mayor, Vice
Thank you.
Mayor,
Yes, sir.
members of the board. Our annual policeman's ball is this Saturday, August 5th. As you know, I started this about 3 years ago. Just one of my many ways of trying to get the police department and the community to see a different side of the police officers. You know, not necessarily a party, but it is somewhere where the police officers can relax and not be so like a police officer. So I want to invite the general public. You can get a ticket from any police officer. And I also like to see the mayor, some of the members of the board, which
I have my
the
ticket,
mayor is always there. So she's made all three of them, so we appreciate it.
Okay, well, it's a good event. It's the Hunter Henry Center. Starts at 7. The details that go with that, and the band is.
I don't think we have a band this year. I'm not sure.
Who's got a DJ?
We got a DJ this year.
It
We
is
usually
a party,
have
by the
some
way,
form of
y'all. It is a
entertainment.
party, so don't let him say
we
that
normally
it's not.
have a DJ and some live entertainment, but this year I think we deviated a little bit, and we're gonna just have a DJ.
Okay.
But the food is good.
Heavy hors d'oeuvres. Okay. All right. Well, I will hope that the board members can decide to come, but I will be there, and I look forward to it. Thank you, Chief.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
Appreciate your indulgence. I have no further comments. Anyone on the board have a comment? Alderman Sistrum?
In conjunction with the resolution that we've passed tonight honoring Representative Ellis for his decades of service, and we don't get to say that about many elected officials, but he has been a good friend to the city of Starkville for a long time. There is an event being planned. The date and time has not been finalized yet, but there is an event being planned, and we're hoping that people will come out and give him the recognition that he deserves after all these years of serving our community. It will be a joint event between the city, the county, and MSU.
Well, and actually, I believe I can say that I got a note from Ms. Fye, and she said that it's been settled on the 26th
Okay.
from 6 to 8. So with no further conflicts, they've established that as the date. So if y'all would
Great.
put that in your calendar, we will be reading the resolution on that evening and getting a chance to honor Representative Ellis for all his decades of service. So thank you. Anyone else? Comments? Okay. Thank you. We have time for citizen comments.
Good evening to the mayor board. My name is Alvin Turner, Ward 7. To the mayor, Vice Mayor Perkins, Alderman Vaughn, Alderman Walker.
Thank you,
Thank
Alan.
you, Alvin.
The citizens last week getting real nervous that the construction on Highway 12 is making it very dangerous for a lot of people trying to get Kentucky Fried Chicken, AutoZone, Zap Chicken in China Garden, and you can't, the left turn, the turn is taken out. We don't want to go make a U-turn in the road and all that. It's very dangerous now. And then with school starting, it's going to be very hard for the buses and everything to not hit one another in the same thing is on Russell Street, getting used to, not letting it be a distraction. It's very mind-boggling to try to get to the, if you coming west, how to make a left turn, or even if you going east, trying to make a right turn, is very frightening. And the guy that killed his father last week and will be set free in a little while. We just want to, the one that's in law enforcement to kind of keep us up on his movement. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Turner.
Vice Mayor? Oh,
Yes.
Vice Mayor. Mayor.
Him too?
Or Vice Mayor. Mayor.
Alderman Sistrunk.
Could Chief Nichols speak to the Highway 12 Russell Street construction? And it's no fun. I don't think anybody will say that it's a fun time on Highway 12, but.
We try to be as out front as possible. We try to give the citizens enough notice so they can make preparations to detour. So we put it on our Facebook page. We got a sign up out there that we're going to be out there doing extra patrol, and we put it on our Facebook page that the streets are going to be somewhat blocked during the construction phase. So we do have extra men and women in that area, and I think that's all we can do right now.
Well, hopefully we've shared it on our Facebook page as well, and I know MDOT is doing their best to try to keep it as easy for us to do it by doing it at night.
Yes, ma'am. And when we find out about it, of course, we try to get it out to the public as fast as possible. So that's what we're doing right now. As far as the stuff they're putting in the medians, it's going to have a little patience.
Sure.
It's going to be a little rough at first, but just like anything else, they'll get used to it. I think it's not being done to hurt anybody. I can remember last year meeting with the Highway Commissioner, Mr. Taggart, and he mentioned that if you take Highway 45, all of Highway 45, North Mississippi, Highway 82, and Highway 12, the three highways, the majority of the accidents occurred on Highway 12 in Starkville. Some number, I don't want to give the number out because I may be wrong, but it was like maybe 37-40% of the accidents on all three highways happen here in Starkville. So those medians, those things are put in the median to help the flow of traffic not hurt it.
Right. In fact, it's a safety grant that we got that are making those improvements along 12. It's because they had money in a safety fund, and that was part of what they're attempting to do is make our highways safer.
Yes, ma'am.
And I hope, the increased presence of the police department encourages our drivers to be a little more mindful of everything that's going on.
Well, you got to remember, school's about to start.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is.
I don't have to say much more.
Freshman.
Thank you, Chief. Any other citizens' comments? Anyone else? All right, thank you. We'll close it as citizen comments. We have no public appearances this evening. We have one public hearing. It is a public hearing of variance 17-14, request by Frank Jones Construction for variance relief from front and side setback requirements for the final phase of Country Club Estates in an R4 zone with the property number 106-14-013.00. And Mr. Sanders?
Mayor, Vice Mayor, Board of
Yes, sir.
Aldermen.
Thank you.
You have before you variance case 17-14, Country Club Estates. This is a request for relief from front and side setback requirements. A total of 24 lots will need relief from front setback requirements, and a total of 5 lots will need relief from side setback requirements. The applicant attended a developmental review committee on July the 6th, 2017. The Board of Aldermen approved the preliminary plat on June 16, 2015 with conditions. On September 6, 2016, the Board of Aldermen reapproved the preliminary plat. In addition to this request, if approved, the applicant will seek approval to modify the preliminary plat from the Planning and Zoning Commission and the Board of Aldermen. The approved infrastructure plan will also have to be reapproved by city staff. On July 26, 2017, the Board of Adjustments and Appeals voted 4-0 to recommend approval of the subject variance request. The applicant has proposed modifying several of the approved lots. The applicant is requesting relief from Section FR4 Residential Zoning Regulations. 66 property owners of record within 300 feet of the subject property were notified directly by mail of their request. A public hearing notice was published in the Starkville Daily News on June 27, 2017, and a sign was posted on the property concurrent with publication of the notice. As of this day, the planning office has received 2 phone calls requesting additional information, and there were 2 persons at the Board of Adjustments and Appeals meeting that were against the proposed variance request. I'll be happy to answer any questions that the board may have. Yes, sir.
The 2 people that attended the Board of Adjustment and Appeals meeting, what was their issue?
It's my understanding essentially the size of the homes.
Okay, this is R4, so we've already previously approved the preliminary plat.
That's correct, yes, sir.
And those lot sizes, they comply with R4 zone?
That they do.
Okay. That was their only issue that they brought forward?
That's my understanding, yes, sir.
Okay. And as far as the variance, they're moving the lots forward, is that correct, on most of them?
On all 24 properties, they are wanting to move the front setback, or the
correct.
front of the house closer to the street. And on 5 lots, they're asking for setback relief on the side. R4 requires a minimum of 10 feet on one side.
Isn't that request due to the drainage ditch they've implemented in the back?
That is also correct, yes, sir.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions from board members of Mr. Sanders while we have him?
I do
I'm
have
sorry.
one, just to
Alderman
clarify.
Walker?
So the plat that was approved, the lots meet the R4 requirements. And you're saying they're looking to
By square footage, yes, sir.
by square footage. So the lots that if they come back and we have to reapprove the additional plat, you're saying they're looking to change the actual lot dimensions, or they're just looking to change the setback requirements inside the lot dimensions that meet the R4?
No, they would be
requirement?
changing the lot dimensions. But they would still meet R4 requirements.
All right, so help me understand why they're changing the R4 lot sizes. If really all they're asking for is a variance request for setbacks, what is the rationale for changing the actual lots? Is there some other thing that has happened that required the plat change? Because I would think just the relief from a setback wouldn't require a lot change.
Essentially, they were designed to have more lots and specialized design, if you will.
Okay, so the change is they're increasing their lot yield, and so they're wanting to come back with a new layout, a totally new plat.
Yes, sir. If you look at the access points towards the southern portion of the,
Rear entry.
there will be access from the rear here and also from here.
So alley access,
Yes,
that's
sir.
what it looks like, okay?
Okay, all right.
Is there,
Well, I'm going to allow public
Please.
public comments here. Mr. Tabor, did I hear you in the back say something you would like to come up? What we'll do is, we'll see how many people want to speak to this matter, but about 30 minutes worth of public comments, but hopefully this will be fairly quick. Mr. Tabor, go ahead,
This is
identify.
Real quick, I guess I want to get a little more clarification. I'm partnering with Frank Jones Construction on the development of this particular section. Kind of going back over that and make sure, because I couldn't hear real good back there. There is 24 lots, there originally was 24 lots. the new lots, some of the lots are different total square footages, some a little bit bigger, some a little smaller than the original approved 24 lots. But there was an increase in the number of lots in that section.
But the new layout for the, sorry, maybe.
No, that's okay.
Maybe the new lot layout, it still meets all the R4 requirements, so there's no change, there's no variance seeking for the size of the lots in R4?
No, sir, just the front and side setback.
Okay.
One, you can see the drainage in the green. One thing we were trying to do was make sure, even on the ends, you know, the short ends, that all the houses were pointed forward. The lot depth was impacted a little bit with the drainage ditch, so the request to bring those forward. We attempt to do all side entrance garages. And then on the, I guess from this angle, the southern end, you know, we did an alley drive in the back, and that also, it helped to have a little more square footage on the front. So tried to do some uniformity. You know, that was already an R4 section, you know, with smaller lots, but trying to add a little character to it.
So, Mr. Sanders and Mr. Tabor, can somebody point out, or at least on here, which the lots that have the side set, that are seeking the side requirements for variance?
Jason, this is from memory, but the top right lot, the very top right, it's this purplish blue.
Okay.
I think that one was, and then I think the bottom middle purple. I'd have to look at it, but
There's 4 of them, I believe.
there were 4 of them.
I think it's probably each corner,
Right.
north and south.
And those were, if I recall, looking at the chart, they're basically, you said it was a 10-foot requirement on the side, and that most of those were somewhere in about 5-foot range.
I think the 7.
Yeah, one's 995, and the
Right,
other's 5.
There's the, yeah.
I did want to tell the board that we did have a meeting with all the owners of the Country Club Estates to, you know, tell them exactly what was going on, give them better understanding. So when we went to the Board of Adjustment Appeals, we really just had one person. The other person thought that the trees on the plans were getting cut, and those were just drawn. But Mr. Pound showed up, and he, you know, had a concern about he again was talking about the setbacks and making sure it wouldn't increase in lots. So other than that, we feel like we've done a good job of trying to explain to the existing owners that, you know, we're trying to improve their lot values and be thoughtful with the architecture design and how the lots are laid out.
Well, I appreciate the clarifying comments. That was my question, is why are we needing a new plat if we're just looking for a setback variance for that? And so thank you for clarifying that point.
Okay.
And I
Any
can
other
answer more questions.
questions of the applicant? Well, we're going to call you the applicant while we're here. Okay? All right. Thank you. All right. Anyone who wants to speak to this matter, you're welcome to come up now. It's a public hearing. Anyone interested in speaking to this matter? All right. We will close it as a public hearing and move on. Any further discussion from the board at this point? Thank you. Move on to the first item on the agenda, which is discussion and consideration. I'm sorry?
Say move, but I think Alderman Vaughn might have said.
I'm sorry, Alderman Vaughn?
We then read off all the things that we put in.
I'm sorry, you're right, we did not, and I apologize, I can do that. Can we go ahead and just take this one up, and then I'll read all the consent agenda items? I'll take a break in that, as long as we're here. Discussion and consideration of variance 17-14, a request by Frank Jones Construction for variance relief from front and side setback requirements for the final phase of Country Club Estates in an R4 zone with a property number 106-14-013.00. Do I have a motion?
Say move.
A motion from Alderman Carver, a second.
Second.
Second from Alderman Little. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. And thank you, Alderman Vaughn. I apologize. Yank me up next time, and I will try to do it immediately. All right, I will back up and read all of the consent agenda items that have been approved by this board. Item number 1 were consideration of the Board of Aldermen minutes, consideration of the minutes of the June 20th, 2017 meeting of the Mayor and Board of Aldermen of the City of Starkville, Mississippi, incorporating any and all changes recommended by the City Attorney. Under Mayor's business, it's consideration of invoice numbers 1878 and 1887 from Pepper Surveying and Mapping, LLC, for payment under Mississippi Code Section 25-1-47. Item C is consideration of approving in-kind services during the rally held at Sturgis, Mississippi between August 17th through August 20th, 2017. Item D is consideration and review of item number 10 of the minutes of the May 3rd, 2016 of the Starkville Board of Aldermen to consider a clarification nunc pro tunc to accurately reflect the will and intent of the board. Under Board Business, it is A, discussion and consideration of authorization that the City of Starkville concur with previous board's commitment of matching funds other than CDBG funds to a project under the Mississippi Community Development Block Grant CDBG program. B is consideration of the City of Starkville contract for legal services with Chris Latimer of Mitchell, McNutt, and Sams, PA, for term of August the 1st, 2017 through June 30th, 2021. Item C is consideration of amended timeline for the submission of items for the board agenda. Under Department Business Airport, item 1 is request approval of Airport Director Rodney Lincoln to travel to the Jackson Airport in Jackson, Mississippi to attend a Mississippi Airport Association Board of Directors meeting on August the 15th, 2017. Under Planning, it's discussion and consideration of a request for in-kind services by the Relay for Life of Oktibbeha County to place a banner over Main Street August 6th through 11th, 2017. B, discussion and consideration of appointment of Ryan Ashford to the vacant position on the Historic Preservation Commission for a term of 3 years to end August the 1st, 2020. Under Engineering, it's number 1, consideration of accepting the quote from Terry Stidham Construction in the amount of $3,100 to complete the Green Street Drainage Project, Phase 1, with funds coming from Ward 5 discretionary funds. Item 2, consideration of accepting the quote from Terry Stidham Construction in the amount of $4,900 to increase the capacity of existing inlets on Jackson Street with funds coming from Ward 5 discretionary funds. Under Finance and Administration, number 1, request approval of the City of Starkville claims docket for all departments, including Starkville Utilities Department as of July the 26th, 2017 for fiscal year ending 9/30/17. Acknowledging that the city clerk has attested and certified on the cover of the claims docket that all claims on the docket are true, accurate, lawful, and proper to the best of her knowledge for payment pursuant to her duties under Mississippi Code Sections 2139.5, 2139.7, 2139.17, and 2115.21. Consideration of a lease proposal with Bank Core South Equipment Finance Corporation in the amount of $29,327 over 5 years at 2.52% interest for the lease purchase of a Ford F-150 to be used by SFD, fire marshals, and to be paid from state rebate funds. Under Parks, consideration of the approval for Trent Helms, Gary Logan, William Pocup, and Lisa Cox to attend the Mississippi Park and Recreation Convention October 16th through the 18th, 2017 in Tupelo, Mississippi, with advanced travel not to exceed $1,760 for a conference, with additional consideration for William Pocup to be allowed 1 hotel room on Wednesday night with advanced travel not to exceed $1,760 for the conference. That water that we were talking about? Item 2, consideration of the approval of Gary Logan to attend the National Park and Recreation Convention September 26th through 28th, 2017 in New Orleans, Louisiana, with advanced travel not to exceed $1,854.28. Item 3, consideration of the approval to remove 1986 GMC dump truck Sierra, $3,500 from city inventory with VIN number BC26299 and to sell to the highest bidder. Number 4, consideration of the approval to remove 1975 Ford 3600 tractor from city inventory with serial number B70516 and sell to the highest bidder. Number 5, consideration of the approval to remove 1987 GMC Custom Deluxe Truck VIN number 1GCDR14Z3HF371450 to sell to the highest bidder. Number 6, consideration of the approval to remove Sand Pros Golf Carts X-Mark Mowers Track Vac from city inventory and to sell to the highest bidder for parts. Thank you. Under Personnel, item 1, consideration of the approval to hire Stephen Coleman and Kendrick Bishop as maintenance workers for the Sanitation and the Environmental Services Department. Item 3, consideration to advertise for a warehouse manager in the Starkville Utilities Water Sewer Department and allow Casey Johnson to work part-time as a water operator as needed. Under Police Department, item 1, consideration of the approval to enter into a grant agreement M5X-2018-MD-23-11 with the Mississippi Office of Highway Safety, which provides for 2 additional full-time DUI enforcement officers as well as overtime enforcement in the areas of alcohol and drug driving arrests. Number 2, consideration of the approval to enter into the grant agreement PT-2018-PT-23-11 with the Mississippi Office of Highway Safety, which provides for overtime enforcement in the areas of traffic law enforcement. Under Utilities Department, we have number 1, which is request authorization to advertise for bids for construction and installation of sanitary sewer pump station modifications. Number 2, request authorization to proceed with installation of approximately 5,000 feet of identified sewer line and taps as part of the sewer rehabilitation program per commitment to the EPA agency with an expected total cost of $299,841, utilizing approved source of supply materials and labor. And number 3, request authorization for Starkville Utilities to advertise for source of supply bids for water division material for the period July the 1st, 2017 through December the 31st, 2017. And that is in total the consent agenda.
Thank you, Mayor.
My pleasure. I'm sorry again that I forgot. And that takes us next to the only remaining item on the agenda that needs our attention, which is under personnel. Number 2, consideration of adopting the job description for a processing clerk and authorization to advertise to fill the position of a processing clerk in the Community Development Department. Mr. Sanders, would you like to come forward to present this?
Mayor, Vice Mayor, Board of Aldermen. Currently, Mr. Green is working part-time for us, 2 hours a day until the end of August. And Ms. Lowry has, Thursday will be her last day, and then she has chosen to move to Florida to be with her grandchildren. Currently, we have two positions, and it is my desire to merge the 2 positions into one. Essentially, the processing clerk would serve code enforcement in the building department in the processing of applications, answering questions, and filing of documents.
Okay. Any questions from the board of Mr. Sanders or Mr. Ashford? I forgot we could have called on them as well. You're okay. Just unless there are, you're fine. Any questions from the board? Okay. Alderman Walker.
Mr. Sanders, per our previous conversation, I certainly have some reservations about this. I do believe that in theory we could combine some of the duties and responsibilities for those 2 positions. But when I read over the duties and responsibilities as presented in the packet, it seems like the expectations for what we would be looking for this person to do is beyond the scope perhaps of what any individual might be reasonably expected to do from both a volume of work and also skill set. When I look at things related to thinking about the codes and understanding and being able to communicate with the contractors that come in, that seems like a very specific skill set. And when I read the other things where it sounds more administrative assistant type of duties, it just seems like those are 2 different skill sets that we're looking for in one person here, and I'm not sure that person's out there. I would also say that it gives me a little bit of hesitation where, with the increased workload, while we may be in a slight lull, I think we're going to continue to grow and prosper in this community, and I wouldn't want to be losing a position right now and wish that we had that position back in the near future. I know maybe in what the conversation you had with me, and you can share it with the board and people can make their own decision, is software that was approved by this board somewhere around a year ago or so.
November.
And IQ Works, and that your expectation is that this software is going to help reduce the workload in the community development department. And that very well may be the case, but we're still at least 3 or 4 months from having that program be implementable, and at this point, the current city staff hasn't been trained on the software. Is that accurate?
Somewhat. In that currently we are using the software for day-to-day processing, accepting of applications, payments, records. Documents are scanned into the software. Currently, iWorks is working to take our previous data from Permit MD and bring into iWorks to have the historical data going back to 2009 to the present. The online feature will not be available for probably about another 2 months, in that we are currently going through and calling out fields that are not required for that permit. For example, if you wanted to apply for a banner permit, you don't need to list all the information that you would on a building permit. So to make it more user-friendly for the applicant and also staff to review.
And so that component, just to make sure that I'm clear, that would typically fall under the duties of what Mr. Green had done, right? Dealing with permitting, sign permitting, and all of that. And so we're looking for that. We're doing some of that, but the online version won't be available for at least a couple more months.
That's correct. I look for the online portion to reduce foot traffic into the office by probably 50 to 60%.
And what are we basing that? What are you basing that 50 to 60% reduction on?
We have several, let's say, typical engineering firms, surveyors, landscape architects that we deal on a regular basis, that does lots of work in the city, that is familiar with us and our processes, that would probably use the software more so they didn't have to come to City Hall to make the application. However, we have some people that just like to come in and physically give us an application, which is fine. We'll take that application and just scan it in and put it into the database.
Okay. The second piece is what Ms. Lowry currently does, is the code enforcement piece. And right now, it's my understanding that that piece of it is Mr. Lyles goes out, finds whatever code violations are in the community, and it comes back, and that position does the hard filing and preparing the notice that is sent to the violators of the code. And the expectation, if I'm reading this right, is that, again, the software is going to help alleviate the need for that type of research and that coding. Is that correct?
Essentially, the code enforcement officer would go out, find the violation, take a picture, document it, fill out the information, and in the populated fields, automatic letter would be generated, which then can be printed and mailed by the processing clerk.
And so for that automatic letter to be generated, what has to be the input on the front end from the research for the code violations? All that has to be inputted at some point, right?
By the code enforcement officer, yes.
Okay, so how many months are we away from that part of the software being able to be implemented and our current code enforcement officer trained on that program?
I say about 3 months.
About 3 months. And so in that 3 months, the code enforcement officer is going to upload all the data related to the typical code violations that we see that could then generate those letters that currently Ms. Lowry is doing, or that position is doing right now.
In iWorks? Or,
Yeah. Or what?
No, currently we don't have, we have a software package called Permit MD that we would continue to use. It would essentially, if the position was filled, that person would essentially put that information in for Mr. Lyles.
So in the interim, they would still be using Permit MD, and this person would be answering the 50 to 60 phone calls that come in a day. They would be doing the filing for all the permits, and they're going to be doing all of the code violations in Permit MD for Mr. Lyles, which we see on an average basis is somewhere in the neighborhood of about 40 or 50 a month. Is that we see normally in our packets of code violations?
I expect that to go up.
And I expect that to go up too. And again, as we continue to grow, I think those things are going to continue to go up. And that's where my concern is that the expectations on any one individual in this position seem like that's a daunting task, especially for the amount of money that's proposed to pay them. I'm just not sure that that's there. I am hopeful that the iWorks is going to drastically improve and the efficiency of our system, but I'm going to say that I'm a little skeptical until I actually see that program up and running, and we see the true value of what that is. Other than saying that in 3 or 4 months it's going to all be great. I would think there's going to be some training required for our current staff and any future staff that's required. And so at this point, I think there's no question that we need immediate help for Mr. Green's position and Ms. Lowry's position, and how we do that in the short term, I'm not exactly sure, and I would think a staff meeting pretty quick like to figure that out. But at this point, I don't think I can support this ask tonight for this position. I'm certainly not in favor of growing city government any more than it needs to be, but I would hate for us to shrink a position and then realize that 6 months or 2 years down the road that it sure would be nice to have that position. So I would much rather us tap the brakes a little bit and make sure that this is the right decision moving forward. And I would be hopefully to hear other people's comments and recommendations, but at this point, I'm going to be a no, just because I think there's just too many unanswered questions, and that the expectation for any one individual seems fairly great to me.
Okay, thank you, Alderman Walker. Anyone else have any Alderman Sistrunk?
I'm going to agree with Alderman Walker to a great extent. I do have an additional question, which is, will they be allowed to make online payments when we get to the permitting? So that's another function that will be automated.
Yes, part of the contract that was approved by the board was for an option, if you will, called iTransact,
Okay.
which would allow for online payments.
Okay. And I think what I would like to see is probably what I think Alderman Walker is saying as well, is for us to regroup, think this through completely, since the software is not up and running just yet. There are a lot of opportunities, other ways that y'all could approach this that's more of a Band-Aid stopgap measure, and then we can certainly look at combining those two positions once the software is functional and we have some experience on which to make a decision.
Okay.
Any other discussion by any board members?
One question.
Alderman Vaughn?
But will they inherit all the cemetery business that he carries?
Good
Will all that
question.
come in line with that? The cemetery? that-
Currently, I have been dealing with that.
Oh, you've been dealing with that now?
Of course, with the help of Mr. Green, but no, I would not expect the processing clerk to deal with those issues.
Any other discussion? Well, we're going to have to do something in the interim, because we're losing Ms. Lowry, and Mr. Green is only with us part-time for a couple hours a day through the end of this month. So is there a concept in the interim that you would like to see happen so that we can have it covered, or you think you can handle it?
No, it's my opinion that we need to maybe find a temporary part-time position to fill in, and that would probably be worked well, and that the person would get to see the processes and train on the job. And when the board, or if the board decides that, you know, the position is warranted, then we can revisit that person working full-time.
Okay. Just in point of discussion, do we perhaps want to send Mr. Sanders back to return at the next board meeting with a recommendation for a temporary part-time position while we get this software up and running and see how it goes?
Say move.
Okay, let me see if I can word that in a way that makes some sense. But he actually, we don't have to have a motion. He can come back with it. We can address this particular item on the agenda in one form or another, and then we can just bring it back at the next board meeting. So, Alderman Walker.
Mayor, it'd be my recommendation that you meet with Mr. Sanders in the coming day or two, and assist with anybody else in the community development department, and see if a strategy can be developed for an interim that can be presented to the board at our next meeting, so we can make a move. And I would also go as far as say that if it's determined by you and Mr. Sanders at that point that a part-time temporary worker to at least answer phones or whatever might be necessary, I would be willing to go ahead and make a motion to support that, of making that decision. Anything beyond that, I think, would warrant coming back to the board to make that decision.
Okay. All right, so we have no motion associated with the job description that's actually on the agenda, but we have a motion to basically regroup and see about a temporary position to be determined after consultation with Mr. Sanders, is that correct? And move forward with that temporary position, is that what I'm being authorized?
If it's agreed that that's the direction that
Okay.
service serves
Okay,
the community development department in the interim.
okay, all right. I have a motion to move forward with a temporary part-time position after consultation with Mr. Sanders and the staff. Will that work? Anybody? All right, I've got a motion and I need a second.
Second.
From Alderman Carver down there. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. And that completes our agenda for this evening. We have no executive session. Allow me to read my language for calling on the work session, which is in accordance with the notice as required under Mississippi Code 254113. The board will be having a work session on the 11th of August, 2017 at 11 a.m. Meeting will be held at City Hall at the second floor conference room located at 110 West Main. The public and media are invited to attend. Notice shall be provided of this work session within 1 hour of this meeting by posting such notice at City Hall. The notice for the work session shall be made a part of the minutes of the board meeting. The work session will be an open public meeting of the City of Starkville, and the public and press are invited to attend. I entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
A motion to adjourn, a second?
To recess.
I'm sorry, recess. I apologize. Thank you, Vice Mayor. A motion to recess.
So moved.
And I have a second?
Second.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you.
Full of force, you know? Yes, sir. We don't want full of force tonight, yes, sir. Good to see you. Yes, sir.